Hi, everybody. Hope you're doing well. In 20 minutes, Oakland Mayor Sheng Thao is supposed to take the podium at City Hall and announce what will be the most consequential decision of her young time as mayor of Oakland. The fate of Oakland Police Chief Armstrong, someone that I lobbied for 2 years to be hired by then Oakland Mayor Libby Shaft to be our top cop because the mayor had not hired a police chief to that point. And overall, we hadn't had a black police chief to that point, and we hadn't had a black police chief to the point that Lauren was hired 2018 since 2011. And I would hope I don't have to explain why that's important in a city where the majority of people who are arrested are black, in a city that has a deep, nationally known, African-American oriented history. It's vitally important to have a black person representing the city's safety-keeping department, the Oakland Police Department. And so the mayor did just that, hired Armstrong, who was at that point a 22-year, now 25-year Oakland police veteran. So now you would say, what's going on? Why this situation where Mayor Thao may wind up firing the chief of police? And you would be asking a good question if that's the question you were asking. And the reason we got here really has nothing to do with anything truly untoward that maybe he should be Mayor, Chief Armstrong did. Nothing. It's because Robert Warshaw, the federal monitor, is facing a future where 2023 would be the last one where he received a $1.2 million check from the city of Oakland. Something he has done for 20 years. Something he has enjoyed for 20 years. That's right, 20 years. So I said this to a friend of mine earlier today, and I'll repeat it. You want to talk about how bad the Raiders deal was in Oakland, right? Relying on personal seat licenses, and the licenses aren't sold and all that. Okay, you want to talk about that, all right? Well, let's talk about the real Raiders deal. The real Raiders deal is paying Robert Warshaw $20 million over a 20-year period to do oversight. He's not even in Oakland. He is in North Carolina. All right? That's got to be the biggest leakage of Oakland tax money for an unnecessary reason in the history of this city. And yet it's been allowed to go on. It's scandalous. And here we are, faced with the first real chance of getting out from under the guise of the federal monitor, and we have what is a made-up story based on a bumbling sergeant, Michael Chung, who first, still largely inexplicably, except to those who have the confidential information regarding his case, runs into the Mercedes-Benz, parked in San Francisco, literally takes off its bumper. I've seen the photographs, pretty gnarly. Then drives off with his girlfriend, who also just happens to be an Oakland police officer. All right? And then 8 months later, the same Sergeant Chung is in an Oakland police headquarters freight elevator for some reason. And apparently the reason he was in there is to shoot off his gun, practicing, pointing at something. Or he was sitting someplace and it got into his mind to do some shadow target practice, except guess what? The gun went off. The gun went off, and it was a Saturday night. Was he also drunk? Don't know. Okay? Whatever the actual reason, the bullet hole left was unreported by Michael until others started just talking about it around the department. Hey, there's this bullet hole. Who put this bullet hole here in the freight elevator in Oakland Police Department, right? Well, Michael got a conscience and said, yeah, I better fess up. So he did. Of the reported over 1,500 Internal Affairs Division cases of 2021, that was one of them. But seemingly by the fact that we know about it, at least to some degree, the only one used to be elevated to a media level to say, hey, Chief Armstrong didn't do his job, when in point of fact he has deputies like Angelica Mendoza and others, and I specifically refer to her because she's supposed to be over the new risk management division, to watch out for these, piddling little cases about officers doing stupid things, all right? And render a decision that can be signed off by the chief in, groups without the chief having to worry about any backlash, because presumably his line officers are going to have his back, right? That's what one should think. But that, as told to me by a couple of sources, wasn't the case. And they pointed at her for trying to engineer a takedown and said that Angelica Mendoza was very tight with the current mayor of Oakland, Sheng Thao. Ooh, okay. Ooh, all right. Ooh, all right. Ooh, all right. Does that look like backstabbing? And then also you have to, question your own source innocence and say, to what degree is that really true? If the chief of police himself was a person who elevated Ms. Mendoza to the point of first being a deputy chief and then secondly being in charge of risk management, which means she gets to watch his back. Do you think that Lerone would put anyone in charge of an organization designed to watch his back if he felt he couldn't trust that person? Of course not. But the lines of accusation do point to her. All right? And then there's a sudden emergence of these people who want to call themselves progressive, but really can't define what being progressive is. Sorry. Who decide that they're going to stand behind the current mayor because she's all about being progressive, but also can't define what that is. And they're going to go out and pick fights with people on social media because they think these other people are not progressive, even though they also, in pointing a finger about who they say is and is not progressive, can't even truly define themselves what progressive is, because the people that they're pointing at actually have progressive behavior themselves. Pretty silly, huh? If you don't think this whole thing is silly, it is. So, instead of the mayor saying, well, the Federal Monitor made this mistake and there's nothing wrong with the chief, she actually used this to further advance the idea that there's something wrong with the chief. Although her way of advancing it has been, to put it mildly, clumsy. So it makes it obvious that, as someone told me, this really was a political hit done because Sheng doesn't want it to look like she's pushing out a black police chief. Think about that. Then I have a text from Rainier Webb, the former chief of staff to Sheng Thao, which says, hey, Sheng is asking Ms. Webb about, and specifically in writing, she put it this way, Asian sheriff. That's what she wrote, okay? That is what she wrote, okay? An Asian sheriff. Why? Why? Could it be that Sheng wants an Asian officer to take the place of their own Armstrong purely for ethnic reasons? When we've struggled to get, hey, a sheriff of color, a black sheriff back. You know? In other words, hey, there's got to be something made up, something wrong, rather than just being honest about it and dealing with the consequences. Sheng Thao is about mirrors. She likes to do mirrors. I know that. I know it personally. What I mean by that is she doesn't want you to know exactly where she's really coming from, so she practices the art of subterfuge, but not well. And I'm explaining to you folks, this is another one of those examples. It's not the way a city should be ran, because if you have to do that, it means you're spending too much time on politics and very little, if perhaps arguably none, on administration, the real focus you have to have in order to fix civic problems. Oakland has become horribly, terribly, and beautifully over-politicized. That's where Oakland is right now today. It is a total mess. And it's going to be that way for a while, until either the people that are in charge of producing the mess don't realize that what they're doing, or do realize that what they're doing is wrong, and then change it. Or a combination of events leads to a countervailing element that eventually takes necessary action to legally rid the city of people in charge who are acting in a way that pays only attention to edge and divisive politics. Those are the two directions. I'm hoping for the former direction and not the latter direction. Nobody likes a war. No one likes a disagreement. No one likes skirmishes. I prefer professional, analytical, thoughtful decision-making and decision alterations. We don't have that right now. We have people making decisions based on the angels and devils on their shoulders. And more often than not, the devils speak louder than the angels. We've also not had that before, at least in my history of the city of Oakland, which goes back 40 years. Actually longer than that. So all of that history quite literally gets dumped on Mayor Thao today, even if she doesn't know it. All right? Even if she doesn't know it. Okay? And the mayor thinks that she can take all these press events and cover up over any negative media about her. Impossible. Impossible. Completely, 100% impossible. So that's where it is right now. I'm going to next go. I'm going to close this down and then go see if I can find the press conference online here. All right. Subscribe to Zenny62 and bookmark oaklandnewsnowblog.com. See ya.